Zunächst ein ganz herzliches Dankeschön an den Gnadenchor. Was für ein wundervoller, schöner Name. Vielleicht sind Sie ein Ensemble oder ein Chor, das ist aber eine philosophische Frage. Herzlich willkommen und ich begrüße ganz herzlich Frau Professor Böhm, Frau Dr. Vinzenz, Frau Gwendolin Kremer und ganz herzlich, dear Esmeralda, welcome to Dresden. In the SLUB, Klemperer-Saal, liebes Publikum hier im Saal und auch im Stream, herzlich willkommen. Wir haben gehört, dass es noch ein paar Anfangsschwierigkeiten mit dem Stream gab, aber das sollte jetzt behoben sein. Uns ist es eine große Freude, in der SLUB die Kooperation mit dem Schaufler Lab fortführen zu können. Wir hatten verschiedene Art Science Labs schon in den vergangenen Jahren gemeinsam begonnen und jetzt das fortzuführen mit den Künstlerstipendien ist uns ein großes Anliegen, denn es scheint uns so wichtig und auch immer fruchtbringend, den Dialog zwischen Kunst und Wissenschaften zu führen, fortzuführen und auch zum Klingen zu bringen, ihm eine Bühne zu geben. Die Performance, die gerade hier, wenn wir einen Chor hören oder andere künstlerische Produktionen auf die Bühne bringen, spielt ja eine ganz wesentliche Rolle dabei. Und deshalb ist es uns besonders ein freudiges Anliegen, Sie, liebe Esmeralda, heute auch hier dabei haben zu können und ihre Produktionen auch dann wahrzunehmen, was hier entstanden ist während des Künstlerstipendiums in Dresden am Schaufler Lab. Die Frage, wie klingt künstliche Intelligenz? Das kann ich jetzt hier nicht beantworten. Aber vielleicht haben wir im Laufe der nächsten 1,5 Stunden während der Veranstaltung ja doch ein paar Antworten hier. Mich beschäftigt schon lange die Frage nach der Stimme, nach der Performance. Was ist das? Was macht das mit uns? Sei es nun die rein biologische, körperliche Stimme oder auch die der Automaten, der künstlichen Intelligenz. Es hat eine Wirkung. Es geht um Frequenzen, es geht um Schwingungen und diese Schwingung berührt uns. Nicht nur im Ohr, sondern auch im Herzen. Sie haben das vielleicht gerade bei dem Stück über die Mutter Erde, die Heimat, auch schon wahrgenommen. Es gibt verschiedene Tonhöhen, es gibt Dynamik, laut und leise und das macht alles etwas mit uns. Und diese Frage nach der Frequenz, was eine physikalische Einheit ist, verbunden mit der Emotionalität, die sich in der Wirkung dann ja auch zeigt, ist eine sehr interessante und dem nachzuspüren, lade ich herzlich ein. Vielen Dank, dass Sie alle hier sind und ich bin gespannt auf die weitere Veranstaltung.
So, wunderbar, danke. Ich freue mich, im Reigen weiterzumachen. Sehr geehrte Frau Dr. Meyer, sehr geehrte SprecherInnen des Schaufler Labs, Frau Vinzenz und ich weiß nicht, ob er da ist, Professor Hagen. Und dear Esmeralda Conde Ruiz, liebe Teilnehmende am Symposium hier im Saal und auch diejenigen, die online zugeschaltet sind. Ich freue mich sehr, hier zu sein. Ich freue mich, dass auf diesem Abschlusssymposium des Schaufler Labs die Schaufler Lab Künstlerin Esmeralda Conde Ruiz hier zu begrüßen und eben das Symposium, das Abschlusssymposium eröffnen zu können. Und ich danke also sehr für die Einladung. Esmeralda Conde Ruiz ist die 3. Künstlerin, die wir als Universität im Rahmen der Schaufler Residency at TU Dresden auf unseren Campus eingeladen haben. Hier hat sie 6 Monate lang gearbeitet, eng verbunden mit dem Schaufler Lab. Und wir werden eben heute Abend einen Eindruck bekommen von ihrem Wirken hier in Kooperation mit verschiedenen Dresdner Forschenden. Das Schaufler Lab at TU Dresden verbindet in einzigartiger Weise Geistesingenieur- und Naturwissenschaften mit zeitgenössischer Kunst. Es unterstreicht unseren Anspruch, Zukunftstechnologien aus einer breiten Forschungsperspektive heraus zu entwickeln und dann aber auch in unsere Gesellschaft hinein zu vermitteln. Und dieser Ansatz steht für unsere Universität, in der die Geistes- und Sozialwissenschaften eben nicht nur Technikfolgenabschätzungen leisten, sondern das der Technik inhärente Zusammenspiel von sozialem und technischem Analysieren beziehungsweise auch ganz eigene Fragestellungen entwickeln. Mit dem Artist in Residence Programm gehen wir noch einen Schritt weiter. Die Perspektive der Kunst und die künstlerische Forschung können in diesem Prozess eine entscheidende Rolle einnehmen. Der künstlerische Zugriff wirft neue Fragen und Herausforderungen auf und er lässt sie überhaupt erst zu. Und zugleich aber baut er Brücken zwischen den Disziplinen, zwischen Kunst und Wissenschaft oder auch soziale Brücken, dort, wo der Dialog vielleicht schon verstummt ist. Ich freue mich, dass es uns mit dem Schaufler Lab TU Dresden gelungen ist und auch weiterhin hoffentlich gelingt, diese Brücken zu bauen und den wechselseitigen Austausch zu ermöglichen. Die Transdisziplinarität, die mit dem Schaufler Lab TU Dresden per se einhergeht, in eben dieser fächerübergreifenden Konstellation zwischen Wissenschaft und Kunst, die wird auch in dem heutigen Symposium zum Tragen kommen, zu dem ich Sie sehr herzlich begrüße. Ich freue mich deshalb ganz besonders, dass zum einen unsere geschätzte Dresden-Konzeptpartnerin, die Sächsische Landesbibliothek, Staats- und Universitätsbibliothek oder SLUB, hier erneut als Partnerin und auch für diesen wunderschönen Veranstaltungsort gewonnen werden konnte. Und da möchte ich Ihnen, liebe Frau Dr. Meyer, sehr herzlich danken und auch Ihrem Team natürlich. Darüber hinaus, und jetzt kommt eine ganze Reihe von Danksagungen, möchte ich allen danken, die heute eben zum Gelingen des Symposiums beitragen. Das ist zum einen unsere seit dem Sommersemester an der TU Dresden tätige Professorin für Digital Cultures und Societal Change, Orit Halpern, zu der jetzt auch gleich noch was gesagt werden wird und die seither eben eng mit dem Schaufler Lab zusammenarbeitet. Mit dem Akustiker Erkan Altinsoy, den ich auch sehr herzlich begrüße, konnte ein wichtiger Partner von Esmeralda Conde Ruiz gewonnen werden für dieses Symposium. Er waltet unter anderem über die Akustiklabore im Barkhausenbau und ist im Exzellenzcluster Center for Tactile Internet with Human in the Loop, dem CETI, stark involviert. Mit Miriam Ackermann, die als Juniorprofessorin für empirische Musikwissenschaft tätig ist, wird heute eine ausgewiesene Expertin für Sound, also KI, sprechen. Herzlich willkommen heißen möchte ich des Weiteren Carsten Nicolai. Ist er da? Ja, wunderbar. Wir haben uns noch nicht begrüßt. Dann begrüße ich Sie herzlich. International renommierter Medienkünstler und zu unserem großen Glück Professor für zeitbasierte Medien an unserer Dresdner Partnerhochschule des Schaufler Lab der Hochschule für Bildende Künste. Mein großer Dank gilt darüber hinaus dem Team des Schaufler Lab TU Dresden. Ich nenne nochmal Lutz Hagen und Kirsten Vinzenz, sowie natürlich Gwendolin Gremer und Nathalie Sontopski. Last but least bedanke ich mich ganz herzlich bei Ihnen, liebe Esmeralda, als unserer Artist in Residence. Sie haben es geschafft, in den vergangenen 6 Monaten eben kunstvolle Fäden zu spinnen zwischen den eben ganz kurz ja nur vorgestellten Forschenden und Institutionen. Und schließlich, diese Veranstaltung wie das Lab überhaupt wäre nicht möglich ohne den großzügigen Förderer und gleichzeitigen Namensgeber der Schaufler Foundation. Und im Namen des gesamten erweiterten Rektorats geht also mein herzlicher Dank stellvertretend für die Stiftung an Ingo Smith, den Vorstandsvorsitzenden der Schaufler Foundation, der zugeschaltet ist. Herzlich willkommen nochmals Ihnen und allen Teilnehmenden hier im Klemperer-Saal, aber auch all jenen, die via Zoom und YouTube zugeschaltet sind. Ich bin jetzt gespannt auf alle Beiträge und übergebe das Wort gerne an Kirsten Vinzenz.
Vielen Dank, Professorin Böhm. Since we have a bilingual symposium, I will do the greeting in English so that we sort of have all the participants there, especially Esmeralda, of course. Dear Professorin Böhm, dear Julia Meyer, dear participants, partners, guests, dear Esmeralda. As speaker of the Schaufler Residency at TU Dresden and director of the Kustodie, which is the Office for Academic Heritage, Scientific and Art Collections of TU Dresden, I also would like to welcome you to our symposium for Esmeralda Conde Ruiz. We had the great pleasure to host Esmeralda as our now 3rd artist in residence of our Schaufler Residency from April of this year, well, basically until today. She's leaving tomorrow, unfortunately. The Artist in Residence program is one part of the Schaufler Lab at TU Dresden, founded in 2019 by the TU Dresden and the Schaufler Foundation. The second part is a graduate academy for doctoral students from the humanities and social sciences, working with their colleagues on related topics regarding future technologies. The lab sees itself as a place for experimentation, for the dialogue between science, art, and society. It offers the opportunity for young researchers and international artists to work with scientists from various institutes and across discipline boundaries, questioning current technologies, their origins, and effects of our society. The artists are invited to become part of the scientific community for 6 months here at TU Dresden and are supported in their work and research on the overall topic of the lab. The first project phase of the Schaufler Lab at TU Dresden, which will run until 2024, addresses the question of how artificial intelligence changes cultural and social structures and, on the other hand, is itself changed by them. In the Kustodie, we work with the very heterogeneous scientific art and art collections of the university. This is reflected in our projects between art, science, technology, and society. We want to provide a platform and a place for this exchange within the TU Dresden. We believe that art plays an important role in the multifaceted field of knowledge production and that the process is just as relevant as the result. This take on things allows for the unexpected, open up new spaces for thought and communication, for science and art alike, which, so we hope, resonates within the TU Dresden and at best far beyond. At the end of October, we will begin the process of developing a new guiding topic for the next phase of the Schaufler Lab, which will be a very important process for us. I think for developing a new topic, it's not only the topic itself, which should be resonate within the university and should be developed by our scientists, but also it's an interesting process to develop the Schaufler Lab itself further, maybe to think of new formats, maybe to think of new programs we can develop and exchanging with each other. And this is a great chance for us, which I'm really excited about. And I'm sure we will find a topic that will be interesting enough for the Schaufler Foundation to be excited to fund again, clearly. And also, that we are able to use the chance to really make something out of it, to develop it further. That would be something I would really enjoy doing with all of my colleagues. I would like also to thank, of course, the Schaufler Foundation and the University Executive Board of TU Dresden for their continuous support. Many thanks to Julia Meyer and the State and University Library Dresden for their kind hospitality. The lab thrives on the collaboration with the fellows and our many partners within the university and outside. Thank you very much for the willingness to engage with us, which is sometimes probably strange, but always interesting, I hope. Without the enormous dedication of the residency curator, my colleague Gwendoline Kremer, the residency program would not be possible in this form. I would like to thank her and the team of the lab with Anke Woschech, Lena Ludwig-Hartung, as well as my fellow speaker Lutz Hagen for their great work. Last but not least, I would like to thank Esmeralda very much. She's not only an outstanding and inspiring, fantastic artist, she's also such a pleasure to work with. This is something we, an outstanding artist might not be somebody to work with easily, but she really is. And it was really, really fun to have you. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and ideas with us. And I hope we all have an exciting evening. Thank you.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, sehr geehrte Gäste hier im Klemperer-Saal und auch via Zoom und YouTube, liebe Referierende und PartnerInnen, dearest Esmeralda Conde Ruiz. Ich habe nun das Vergnügen, Sie auf einen Parforce-Ritt durch Esmeralda Conde Ruiz Residenzzeit bei uns am Schaufler Lab at TU Dresden mitzunehmen und Sie als Kuratorin der Schaufler Residency an den Wegmarken des Dresdner Aufenthalts der Künstlerin teilhaben zu lassen. In einem Atemzug lässt sich dieser Rückblick, der gleichzeitig auch ein Ausblick ist, mit der Vorstellung der Künstlerin selbst sowie den heutigen Referierenden und Teilnehmenden an der Podiumsdiskussion verbinden. Im Juni vor einem Jahr wurde die preisgekrönte und international renommierte Komponistin, Dirigentin und audiovisuelle Künstlerin Esmeralda Conde Ruiz, sie wurde 1980 in Spanien geboren und lebt seit über 15 Jahren in London, für die 3. Residenz der ersten Förderphase durch den Beirat der Schaufler Residency aus einem internationalen Bewerberinnenfeld von über 60 Einreichungen nominiert. Sie überzeugte damals die Jury mit ihrer Bewerbung, die es sich zum Ziel gesetzt hat, die Möglichkeiten der Entwicklung eines KI-Chors zu analysieren und im Hinblick auf Distinktionsmerkmale zu herkömmlichen Chören zu untersuchen. Esmeralda Conde Ruiz hat in den vergangenen Jahren sehr häufig an der Schnittstelle von Musik und bildender Kunst gearbeitet. Dabei interessiert sie sich insbesondere für die Auslotung der möglichen Grenzen von Chorkompositionen, die sie klanglich, aber auch visuell transformiert, dekodiert und in neue Kontexte überführt. Ihr forschendes Interesse, das über eine konventionelle Arbeit mit Chören also weit hinausgeht, hatte sie letztlich auch dazu veranlasst, sich überhaupt auf die Residenz bei uns in Dresden zu bewerben. Ihr Vorhaben beschrieb sie damals folgendermaßen: Als Komponistin bin ich sehr gespannt darauf, die klangliche Idee eines KI-Chores zu erforschen. Ein KI-Chor, der nicht den menschlichen Klang nachahmt, sondern vielmehr ein singuläres, neuartiges Instrument darstellt. Eines, das zwar von den Mechanismen menschlicher Chöre inspiriert ist, dem aber neue klangliche Qualitäten, Sprachen und Ideen zugrunde liegen. Das Konzept hierzu möchte ich in Experimenten und Workshops mit KI und realen Chören sowie im Austausch mit verschiedenen WissenschaftlerInnen der Universität entwickeln. Als Ergebnis werden eine Klanginstallation sowie eine visuelle Umsetzung der Erkenntnisse entstehen. So viel dazu vor über einem Jahr. Und schon vor dem Antritt ihrer Residenz im April dieses Jahres fanden mehrere Online-Gespräche mit Miriam Ackermann. Sie ist Juniorprofessorin für empirische Musikwissenschaft hier an der TU Dresden und Professor Ercan Altinsoy, dem Inhaber der Professur für Akustik und Haptik am Institut für Akustik und Sprachtechnologie an der TUD-Fakultät für Elektrotechnik und Informationstechnik statt, die beide heute auch, wie schon erwähnt, am Symposium teilnehmen und zentrale PartnerInnen unserer Residenzkünstlerinnen sind. Mit Miriam Ackermann eruierte Esmeralda Conde Ruiz seit September 2021 in regelmäßigen Treffen das Framing für die Konzeption eines KI-Chors. Leitfragen waren dabei unter anderem: Wie mag ein KI-Chor klingen? Was passiert bei einer Entkörperlichung des kollektiven Resonanzkörpers? Was vermag der nichtmenschliche Chor im Gegensatz zu menschlichen SängerInnen? Was also macht den menschlichen Chor so besonders und macht ihn aus? Und wie kann eine Körperlosigkeit eines KI-Chors überhaupt produktiv für einen künstlichen, ephemeren Klang genutzt werden? In den Akustikräumen des Instituts für Akustik und Sprachtechnologie etwa untersuchte Conde Ruiz zusammen mit Dr. Sebastian Merchel aus dem Team von Ercan Altinsoy spezifische Klänge, insbesondere Maschinengeräusche, die sie nun im Lehmann-Zentrum und den Serverräumen der TU Dresden mit Unterstützung von Urcan Akaya, dem wissenschaftlichen Mitarbeiter von Miriam Ackermann, im August aufgenommen hat und nun im Studio der Musikwissenschaft hier auf der August-Bebel-Straße einer Post-Production unterzieht. Ercan Altinsoy ist ebenfalls als Forschungspartner am CETI, wir hatten schon gehört, dem Center for Tactile Internet, das neben dem Verbundprojekt, dem Sketch AI, Partner des Schaufler Lab TU Dresden ist, angebunden. An seinem Institut gibt es insgesamt 3 akustische Spezialräume, die bei der Erprobung spezifischer klanglicher Experimente zum Einsatz kommen können und maßgeblich bei der Fokussierung der künstlerischen Forschungsfrage in Anspruch genommen wurden. Der charakteristische und dabei ausgesprochen individuelle Klang von Serverfarm. Hier wurde die Soundkünstlerin von Carsten Tiede, dem leitenden Techniker im Zentrum für Informationsdienste und Hochleistungsrechnen in der Abteilung Operative Prozesse und Systeme der TUD begleitet, bildet nun ein wichtigen Ausgangspunkt ihrer künstlerischen Forschung zu KI, da diese die technische Infrastruktur für Anwendungen der künstlichen Intelligenz darstellen. Ausgehend von ihren Erfahrungen als Komponistin und Dirigentin spürt sie nun für ihr Abschlussprojekt im Europäischen Zentrum der Künste in Hellerau unter anderem folgenden Fragestellungen nach. Ich zitiere erneut Esmeralda Conde Ruiz. Können wir beim Komponieren künstliche Intelligenz nicht nur, wie oftmals üblich, als Werkzeug, sondern vielmehr als Instrument einsetzen? Wie kann ein Mensch in diesem Falle auf die KI einwirken? Und kann KI eine eigene Stimme und damit einen individuellen Klang finden bzw. entwickeln? Erste Einblicke in Esmeralda Conde Ruiz' Auseinandersetzung mit dem Sound von KI boten verschiedene öffentliche Veranstaltungsformate, zu denen die Soundkünstlerin maßgeblich beitrug bzw. als Referentin eingeladen war. Unter anderem in den vergangenen 2 Wochen beim transdisziplinären Summer-Workshop mit Juniorprofessor Matthew McGinnity zu Sound und Space im Kulturpalast Dresden, dem Workshop zu innovativer soziotechnischer Forschung mit SozialwissenschaftlerInnen und ITlerInnen, veranstaltet von Johanna Möller vom TUD-Institut für Kommunikationswissenschaft, oder bei der Konferenz Digital ist besser, Camp für digitale Kultur im Komplexlabor Digitale Kultur der Hochschule Merseburg, wo Esmeralda im Juli mit einer experimentellen Performance präsent war. Nach Merseburg eingeladen hatte sie Nathalie Sontowski, die im Komplexlabor als wissenschaftliche Mitarbeiterin tätig ist und bei uns im Schaufler-Kolleg TU Dresden als assoziierte Stipendiatin ihre Dissertation zu Strategien der Spekulation, Doing Speculation im Feld der Creative AI im Fach Soziologie verfasst und unter anderem auch unsere 3. Residenzkünstlerin als Forschungsgegenstand 6 Monate als Schatten begleitete, um kritisch zu untersuchen, welche Voraussetzungen und Strukturen unser Lab für künstlerische Forschungsprojekte bieten kann. Neben den eben genannten AkteurInnen Miriam Ackermann, Ercan Altinsoy und Nathalie Sontowski dürfen wir heute auch zugeschaltet Nikolai hier vor Ort begrüßen. Oid Halpern hat seit diesem Sommersemester eine Lighthouse-Professur für Digital Changes an der TUD inne und arbeitet zu extremen Zukünften zwischen Wissenschaftsgeschichte, Informatik, Kybernetik und Designgeschichte. Ihr Link zu Esmeralda Conde Ruiz' künstlerischem Forschungsschwerpunkt ist das Environment und die damit zusammenhängende Ausstattung von KI und die mit KI verbundenen analogen Orten sowie deren Impact auf unsere Gesellschaft, wie Fragen nach Klima, Datenschutz und Grundrechten. In ihrer Keynote wird sie diese Parameter kurz. Professor Carsten Nicolai ist Künstler, Musiker und Labelbetreiber. Erst kürzlich zeigte er im Münchner Haus der Kunst die vielbeachtete Ausstellung Transmitter, Receiver, the Machine and the Gardener, eine multisensorische Klanglandschaft, die gleichermaßen Musik, Kunst und Wissenschaft vereint und hier dann auch insbesondere unsichtbare Phänomene wie Ton- und Lichtfrequenzen in einem spezifischen erlebbar macht. Seit 2015 hat er eine Professur für Kunst mit dem Schwerpunkt auf digitalen und zeitbasierten Medien an unserer Hochschule für Bildende Künste Dresden inne. Im April konnte ihn Esmeralda und seine Fachklasse an der HFBK besuchen und dort ihr Forschungsprojekt vorstellen. Carsten Nicolai wird neben Miriam Ackermann an der Podiumsdiskussion teilnehmen und aus ihrer jeweiligen künstlerischen Perspektive über Zukunftsmusik gemeinsam mit Esmeralda Conde Ruiz sprechen. Herzlichen Dank nun an alle Referierenden, alle Beteiligten und PartnerInnen von Esmeralda Conde Ruiz, die ihre Residenz so fruchtbar und gewinnbringend gemacht haben. Schlüssel dafür ist immer die kollaborative künstlerische Praxis, die Disziplinen und Akteure miteinander verbindet und nun im Rahmen des Residenzprojekts sichtbar und auch erlebbar werden lässt. Esmeralda Conde Ruiz ist meiner Meinung nach eine der relevantesten Künstlerinnen, die derzeit an der Schnittstelle von Musik und bildender Kunst arbeiten. Ihre Werke verbinden dabei virulente Fragen nach zukünftigen Lebens- und Gesellschaftsentwürfen und es gelingt ihr, die Rezipientinnen als Akteurinnen in ihre poetischen und klugen Werke einzubeziehen. Das Schaufler Lab TU Dresden möchte sich heute auch bei dir, liebe Esmeralda, für die spannende gemeinsame Zeit ganz, ganz herzlich bedanken. Wir freuen uns nun alle sehr auf die inhaltlichen Beiträge und laden Sie herzlich dazu ein, sich mit Kommentaren und Fragen an unserer Veranstaltung zu beteiligen. Und nun freuen wir uns auf einen weiteren Auftritt des Gnadenchors und starten danach in die Keynote und die folgenden Lectures. Viel Vergnügen!
Dort, wo der Stille liegt, hat meine Mutter mich geliebt. Vielleicht es ist schon lange her, steht Gartenhaus und Baum nicht mehr. Vielleicht geht jetzt ein Wiesenweg und Flug und Erde drüber weg. Von Heimat, Garten, Haus und Baum ist nichts geblieben als ein Traum. Es ist im Berg derselbe Traum, ein blühender Cannabisbaum, ein Garten voller Sommerflor, einsam ein altes Haus davor. Wenn alle Brünnlein fließen, so muss man trinken. Wenn ich mein Schatz nicht rufen darf, tu ich ihm winken. Winken, winken mit den Äugelein, tu ich ihm winken. Ja, winken mit den Äugelein und treten auf den Fuß. Ist eine in der Stube drin, die meine werden muss. Ist eine in der Scheine in der Stube drin, die meine werden muss. Warum soll sie's nicht werden? Ich hab sie ja so gern. Sie hat zwei blaue Äugelein, die leuchten wie zwei Sterne. Sie hat zwei blaue Äugelein, die leuchten wie zwei Sterne. Sie hat zwei rote Wängelein, sind röter als der Wein. Ein solches Mädel findest du nicht wohl unterm Sonnenschein. Ein solches Mädel, ja, findest du nicht wohl unterm Sonnenschein. Stadt mit ihren Türmen in Abenddämmerung, in Abenddämmerung, in Abenddämmerung, in Abenddämmerung gehüllt. Ein feuchter Wind zu kreuzen, die graue Wasserbahn mit traurigem Takte rudert, der Schiffer in meinem Schiffer, der Schiffer in feinen Bahn. Die Sonne hebt sich noch einmal, leuchtend vom Boden empor und zeigt mir jene Stelle, wo ich das Liebste verlieb, das Liebste verlieb, das Liebste verlor.
Wunderschönen guten Abend. Ich bin Nick Eus, ich bin Argentinsoy. Ich freue mich sehr, hier zu sein und wunderbare Menschen hier. Und es ist wirklich toll, überhaupt diese Möglichkeit. I'm very happy, Esmeralda. Thank you very much that you came to Dresden, and it's a great chance for us to work together. And I hope very much that I can give a short introduction to sound design. You did in German. I should, ich muss ganz kurz.
What is going on here? I think it should not be hard. It should not be hard. Just make me a co-host or make me a co-host.
Wunderbar. Genau, was ich heute vorhabe, kurz zu zeigen, wie wichtig menschliche Wahrnehmung für Sounddesign ist. Und ich hoffe, das gelingt mir. Ich werde ganz kurz, meine Folien sind auf Englisch und ich werde Deutsch vortragen. Ich werde ganz kurz über Akustik reden, dann multimodale Wahrnehmung und dann auch natürlich besonders auditive Wahrnehmung. Dann werde ich auch sehr schnell ein Sounddesign-History machen und Illusions. Schall ist im Alltag immer dabei und bringt uns Menschen zusammen. Wir kommunizieren miteinander und wir sind tatsächlich beeindruckend fähig, unsere Umgebung, aber auch andere Menschen akustisch wahrzunehmen. Wenn ich hier klopfe, weiß man in 100 Millisekunden, dass es ein Holztisch ist, ohne zu sehen, hört man, wie kräftig, dass ich geschlagen habe. Und da muss man ganz kurz schauen, wenn ich unsere Augen liefern pro Sekunde 1 Million Bit Information. Wenn ich mit Ohren und unserer Haut vergleiche, das ist unglaubliche Menge Information, weil leider unsere Ohren bringen nur 10.000 Bit, unsere Haut 100 Bit. Deswegen, letztes Jahrhundert war auch visuelle Designjahrhundert. Man hat sich sehr stark konzentriert, visuelle Wahrnehmung zuerst zu verstehen und aber auch gesamte Umgebung, aber auch viele Systeme visuell zu gestalten. Was man aber vergessen hat, unser Gehirn kann pro Sekunde 10 bis 100 Bit konzentriert verarbeiten. Deswegen sind wir auch relativ schnell visuell überfordert, weil wir müssen unsere Aufmerksamkeit bestimmterweise ablenken. Das machen wir auch hervorragenderweise, wenn wir Auto fahren, wissen wir ganz genau, wie wir hinkriegen sollen. Manchmal passieren Unfälle, aber da wahrscheinlich 100 Bit ist gering. Und da muss man zugeben, leider tatsächlich gibt es sehr viele visuelle Informationen, die wir nicht einfach erinnern können. Wenn wir diesen Raum verlassen, wissen wir öfter überhaupt nicht mehr, welche Farbe die Wände hätte. Deswegen Ohr und Haut bietet uns unglaubliche Möglichkeiten, weil wir tatsächlich sehr schnell und sehr aufmerksam bestimmte Informationen bekommen können, auch im Fahrzeug oder auch bei vielen anderen Produkten. Deswegen Sounddesign spielt inzwischen eine sehr wichtige Rolle und versucht man auch Haptikdesign immer wichtiger zu betrachten. Und da auch ein wichtiger Aspekt ist, wir sind sehr gut fähig, visuell alles zu erfassen, aber unsere Ohren sind ein bisschen langsam. Das ist auch nicht schlecht. Im Alltag funktioniert wunderbar. Wir können auch Filme ohne Probleme schauen. Unsere Ohren aber zeitlich sehr, sehr empfindlich. Das heißt, wenn ich 2 Impulse habe, reicht 1 Millisekunde, diese Impulse voneinander unterscheide. Und das hilft uns im Alltag unglaublich, wenn wir zum Beispiel Antriebsstrang von einem Fahrzeug hören. In 2, 3 Sekunden wissen wir, okay, das ist gut, funktioniert alles wunderbar, aber visuell können wir niemals beurteilen. Deswegen, ich nenne dieses Jahrhundert Esmeraldas Jahrhundert, Sounddesign wird sehr, sehr wichtig sein. Und natürlich als Ingenieure versuchen wir alles in bestimmter Weise modellieren, beschreiben. Und uns beeindruckt Mensch immer, weil tatsächlich mit 2 Ohren kriegen wir alles hin im Alltag. Und das hat man in diesem Bild sehr schön dargestellt. Wenn ich am Strand liege, sogar wenn meine Augen zu sind, kann ich durch das Hören genau verstehen, was passiert in der Umgebung. Und hier hat diese Person, Wissenschaftler, hat 2 Kanäle geöffnet. Die sind unsere Ohrkanäle. Und er hat 2 Taschentücher angebracht. Und die sind unsere Trommelfell. Und tatsächlich diese Wellen, die dahin kommen, geben uns diese Information. Und als Ingenieur versuchen wir das verstehen. Und da wunderbare Ohr ist wirklich so beeindruckend, beginnt schon mit Außenohr, sichtbare Teil. Jeder von uns hat ein anderes Außenohr und die sind unsere Antennen. Damit können wir alles lokalisieren und sagen, okay, kommt Schall von daher oder daher. Deswegen beschreiben wir auch wirklich systemtheoretisch wie eine Antenne. Dann gibt es auch Verstärker, die man auch hier sehr, sehr schön sieht. Egal. Diese 3 Knochen, die sind die kleinsten Knochen in unserem Körper überhaupt, aber die sind fähig, gesamte Schallenergie verstärken. Das brauchen wir auch für Innenohr, weil da haben wir Flüssigkeit. Und plus Innenohr für uns ganz, ganz wichtige Elemente eigentlich. Da passiert analog-digital-Wandlung, AD-Wandler und unglaubliche Frequenzanalyse. Damit, wenn wir im Semperoper ein schönes Konzert hören, dann wissen wir ganz genau, wow, da ist Klavier, da ist Violine, die sind wirklich wunderbar. Natürlich als Ingenieur, wenn wir das alles so schön modellieren können, denken wir können alles beschreiben, aber leider, wir sind nicht so fähig. Hier sieht man unsere Analysen, ganz klassische Analysen. Wir gucken immer Frequenz, Lautheit oder andere Parameter, die wir gut messen können. Und ich möchte 2 Geräusche präsentieren, gleiche Frequenzeigenschaften haben, gleiche eigentlich Lautheitseigenschaften haben, aber ganz anders wahrgenommen werden. Und beginnen wir mit der ersten. Das ist Ingenieurdesign und das ist wenn ich solche Analysen durchführe, die sind beide eigentlich identische Eigenschaften haben die Signale und eine ist wunderbar gestaltet, die andere nicht. Das heißt, Sounddesign tatsächlich kompliziertes und da kommt nicht nur diese Signalverarbeitung, was ich beschrieben habe, einfach Symbolverarbeitung. Unsere Gehirn macht das wunderbare Weise. Ich bin kein Muttersprachler. Wenn ich Deutsch spreche, Sie müssen sich ein bisschen bemühen, was ich sage, zu verstehen. Aber tatsächlich, wir sind so fähig, unser Gehirn ist beeindruckend fähig, Wenn 9 nicht ganz wie 9 klingt, können wir immer noch in unserer Bibliothek herausfinden, okay, das ist 9. Deswegen versuchen wir das auch verstehen und da spielt auch ganz große Rolle diese Plastizität. Und erstaunlicherweise, ich kann wirklich niemals verstehen, wie wir diese Text so gut verstehen können. Das ist beeindruckend. Im Alltag machen wir ständig. Das heißt, wir betrachten eigentlich Zwischenaspekte überhaupt nicht mehr. Und das ist natürlich für Sounddesign ein ganz wichtiges Aspekt. Was ist wichtig, was ist nicht wichtig? Und das versuchen wir von Signalen auch verstehen. Wenn wir Löwenbrüll hören, kriegen wir alle Angst, aber auch gleichzeitig Macht, weil der präsentiert uns unglaubliche Macht. Und deswegen versuchen wir im Signal herauszufinden, wo steckt Angst, wo steckt Macht. Können wir das identifizieren? Wenn wir Signature oder einfach Fingerabdruck herausfinden, können wir Produkte übertragen. Manchmal klappt es gut, manchmal nicht, aber muss ich auch zugeben, Angst bleibt immer dabei. Macht ohne Angst ist leider nicht immer möglich. Wie ich erwähnt habe, Sounddesign hat unglaubliche Historie. Ich kann nicht alles hier erzählen, aber ganz, ganz kurz beginnt natürlich direkt mit musikalischen Akustik und schon bei Griechen und darüber, welche Diskussionen Philosophen gemacht haben und welche auch kleine Experimente durchgeführt haben, ist beeindruckend. Leider, Sounddesign spielt auch schon mit Menschheit bei Kriegen eine ganz wichtige Rolle. Das kann man auch nicht leugnen. Was wir machen, wird auch manchmal für böse Zwecke benutzt. Aber was wir auch in Deutschland sehr gut kennen, schon Glocken. Und da, welche kleine Unterschiede, wie wichtig sind, macht einen großen Aspekt. Und natürlich, wir kommen zur Industrialisierung und dann kommt, wir haben ganz neue Themen von, wie klingt ein Kekse, wie klingt ein Chips oder Verpackungen von denen. Natürlich auch Bierflasche oder auch natürlich am Ende BMW. Und da eine auch ganz wichtige Aspekt, am Ende Sounddesign wird von Reichen auch sehr klar benutzt. Das kennen wir auch in der Historie, eigentlich Seidenschrei, eine der wichtigsten Sounddesign-Instrumenten gewesen früher, weil wenn man sich bewegt hat, hat man einfach Knirschen und Rascheln gehört. Dieses Geräusch, wenn ich präsentieren würde, würde alle sagen, relativ hässliches Geräusch, aber man wusste, dass ich eine hochwertige Kleidung habe. Und das kennen wir auch. Die Reichen können solche Autos leisten und so laut fahren wie unmöglich, aber in ihrer Umgebung, wo sie schlafen möchten, möchten sie ganz ruhig sein und deswegen einrichten Schlösser und Ähnliches. Und was natürlich ganz kritisches Thema, Industrialisierung bringt nicht nur Schadstoffe, auch Lärm mit und ganz andere Aspekte und unsere akustische Umgebung ändert sich. Das ist tatsächlich ein ganz wichtiges Thema für Sounddesign. Und wir kennen, viele von uns kennen sehr, sehr gute optische Illusionen. Und diese Illusionen existieren identisch auch für auditive Wahrnehmung. Deswegen auch bei Sounddesign spielt ganz wichtige Rolle. Hier sehen wir zum Beispiel einige von uns direkt Vase, einige von uns 2 Gesichter. Aber tatsächlich, das ist Aufmerksamkeitsstörung von unserem Gehirn und identisch kriegt Bach oder Esmeralda so gut hin, etwas vordergründig erscheinen lassen mit einem tollen Hintergrund. Und auch manchmal kriegt man hin, etwas, obwohl nicht bewegt, plötzlich bewegt wahrgenommen wird, wie diese Kreise. Und da habe ich immer dieses schönes Beispiel, obwohl alles auf einer Ebene sind, eigentlich nimmt man so wahr, dass sie eine kontinuierliche Bewegung sein soll. Und dieses Bild können wir akustisch auch nachbilden. Unendliche Geschichte, leider auch. Tatsächlich, obwohl unsere Frequenz ein relativ begrenzter Bereich ist, mit geschickter Signalgestaltung, wie man hier sieht, das nennen wir auch Shepard-Ton. Das heißt, wenn wir mehrere Töne miteinander kombinieren und mit dieser Beziehung zusammenstellen, dann entsteht das Gefühl, dass es immer kontinuierlich weitergeht. denkt man, okay, sehr spannend, aber warum ist es gut? Eigentlich für Elektroautos haben wir ein Problem. Wir müssen Passanten informieren, ein Auto kommt, und da haben wir für gesamte Geschwindigkeitsbereich leider nicht ausreichend Frequenzen. Deswegen nutzen wir diese Idee, damit steuern wir Geräusche so, dass man tatsächlich Gefühl bekommt, okay, Fahrzeug beschleunigt zu mir und ich muss natürlich aufmerksam sein. Und Ähnliches hier, diesmal Schritte, dass die Menschen führen und immer steigt. Ups. Damit hat man relativ guten Überblick bekommen. Ich möchte ganz kurz auch beschreiben, weil Emotion eine ganz wichtige Rolle spielt. Außer Information, was ich erzählt habe, wenn ich klopfe, wissen wir, ob es Holz ist, Glas ist oder Metall ist. Eigentlich grundsätzlich, was ganz wichtig ist Emotion, die Geräusche uns übertragen. Und bei Sounddesign, dieser Aspekt spielt eine wichtige Rolle. Und wenn man besonders in Deutschland Autozeitschriften liest, dann sieht man verschiedene Begriffe: Enjoy the melody of driving, Sound Machine, Intimate, Sweet Engine Sound und so weiter und so weiter. Und tatsächlich, was Musikwissenschaftler hervorragenderweise wissen, man kann natürlich Emotionen erwecken, und versuchen wir das auch verstehen. Leider ist es nicht so einfach. Wir reden mit unterschiedlichen Sprachen. Wir Akustiker nutzen wir ganz andere Begriffe, Musiker ganz andere Begriffe. Zwischen Musiker oder zwischen Akustiker gibt es auch Unterschiede, und auch emotionale Begriffe sind natürlich, Entschuldigung, ich habe... Ja. Genau, grundsätzlich Lautheit, Tempo, Rhythm, Tonalität und Harmonie sind ganz wichtige Aspekte. Eigentlich Fahrzeugakustiker nutzen sehr, sehr oft ganz andere Begriffe wie Rauigkeit, wie Schwankungsstärke, wie Lautheit. Deswegen haben wir auch manchmal Verständnisprobleme, und besonders Laien nutzen alle überhaupt nicht. Die beschreiben ganz anders. Das ist eine Seite von Dritte Schuljahrbuch, und da sieht man klare Begriffe, diese Geräusche wunderbarerweise beschreiben. Das heißt, jeder kann im Alltag eigentlich ganz schön beschreiben. Wir versuchen jetzt inzwischen von uns entwickelte Begriffe, wie können wir den zusammenbringen. Damit möchte ich auch meinen Beitrag beenden, weil ansonsten wird alles zu lang. Diese gesamte Studien habe ich mit wunderbaren Menschen, die jung und smart sind, zusammen durchgeführt. Und Dresden ist auch so eine wunderbare Stadt, bietet uns auch wirklich wunderbare akustische Umgebungen, Semperoper und so weiter. Ich freue mich sehr und vielen, vielen herzlichen Dank für die Aufmerksamkeit.
Okay, hi. I'm talking today about artificial unintelligence, the human touch of AI. And as part of my PhD, I had the pleasure of accompanying Esmeralda throughout her residency. And during one of the meetings I was able to attend, she said that wherever there is AI, you can find humans. And this sentence really stuck with me, and I thought about it a lot. So that is why today, to honor Esmeralda's work here in Dresden, I want to talk about the human touch of AI. But before we talk about that, I really want to clarify or establish what AI is, because a lot of people have a lot of different opinions, definition is very fuzzy subject. Some might think of AI as a Terminator-esque superpower, a cyborg. Some maybe picture AI as an all-knowing computer, and others might just think of AI as a server farm or rows of code. So what exactly is AI? Most people think, when they hear the term AI, they might think of something like this, which is called general AI or AGI, and it describes intellects that greatly outperform the best current human minds across many very general cognitive domains. So basically, we are talking about flawless, all-knowing supercomputers with abilities which by far outperform us humans. So we can talk about androids like in the TV show Westworld, or very wise supercomputers like HAL in Kubrick's Space Odyssey, or Samantha in the movie Her, or my personal favorite WALL-E, which is a very cute AI, but it's also very powerful. And one thing they all have in common is that they are all fictional. So all of these just exist in movies, they exist in computer games or in books, but not in the real world. But people really seem to love this dystopian, utopian storytelling about AI, mostly rebelling against us humans, the creators. And there's a lot of discussions about when we reach the point of singularity, a point at which AI will be more evolved than humans. And the good news is, I don't think we will reach the point very soon, because what we have right now is narrow AI. Narrow AI is today commonly used to describe classes of technologies, algorithms, and digital apps with a certain AI percentage. So you might think of web search, of recommendation systems, of smart assistants or robots. And simply put, narrow AI is very good in processing huge amounts of data, for example, images or text, and it can search for patterns in this data sets. And this is how the AI learns to make decisions based on these detected patterns. So it's basically looking for patterns, learning, and then making decisions based on the patterns. An example could be machine learning systems trained to detect anomalies in X-rays, which are now used to prevent in prevention of cancer, or facial recognition systems, so you can identify certain faces or personas, and this is how you grant them access, or you don't grant them access to rooms or something. And the thing is that narrow AI, or this kind of AI, if you train them to identify certain faces, it won't be able to drive a car. So the abilities are very narrow, and it can't just switch and do another thing. It would have to be trained all over again with a new data set. And training is very tedious because it requires huge data sets. The more data you have, the more exact your AI is going to be. So data sets used for like huge AI applications are usually around 100,000 objects. And yeah, this is what we have established now, what the AI is, or the meaning of AI is. And now that we know what AI is, we can talk about where we can find the human touch of artificial intelligence. Because when AI works as it is intended, a lot of big tech companies like to say it's like magic, but it isn't really magic. It's the humans who work behind the curtain of AI, and the humans we rarely talk about. Humans like over 70,000 people in India are currently working in the field of data annotation labor, as reported by an ASCOM study. And this reveals that data work for AI has a very race and class dynamic. It's outsourced to developing countries like India, like Kenya, Venezuela, or the Philippines, where people work for sometimes just $1 an hour. And they work 7 days a week, they work very long shifts, they have nearly no rights. And it is organized with crowd work behind AI on platforms. You may know Amazon Mechanical Turk or Clickworker. Another one is Remotask. And these platforms are highly lucrative. For example, Remotask is currently raised $600 million from investors and is valued at $7 billion. So there's a lot of money in this, but it comes down to the workers who have to work for like underpaid wages. And this is invisibilized work. I mean, it's not just Apple. I think it's nearly every big tech company who uses underpaid human data workers. And they are notoriously quiet about how its products come to exist. And they are willfully masking the real bodies with labor in their profit. And this, for example, also concerns the thousands of employees of subcontractors like, for example, Foxconn, who produces for Apple in China. And they produce the containers and shells which will house AI, our smart assistants, and our smartphones. And when we read reports about working conditions at Foxconn, they are often talking about how workers are mistreated. They are also very underpaid. They have nearly no rights. But this is not something that Apple likes to shine the highlight on. We see the smart products, but we don't see the sweaty work behind these smart and glamorous objects, which will enhance our lives here. But why does AI need so many invisible workers anyways? As mentioned, AI is trained with an enormous amount of data, with data sets. And these have to be prepared by humans. These are not automated by now. And it's tedious work because it's very repetitive, but also you need to be highly concentrated. So data workers will survey images, maybe like somebody riding an elephant, and they will label them with whatever is depicted. So a machine learning algorithm can learn the differences between, for example, traffic lights and fireworks. And it can look like something in the picture, it doesn't have to be, but it also can be simple objects like a sign, a human, car. But in recent years, now that cameras have gotten so good, they are also very delicate objects. So people sometimes have to survey and label single water drops so that cars don't take them for obstacles. And this is really excruciating work, staring at your screen the whole time, identifying single drops of water and labeling them. And data labeling is something we probably all have experienced and taken part of. You may know this kind of little window from when you try to do an interaction on the internet and you have to identify yourself as a human so you can go on with your payment or whatever you're trying to do. And this is a Google reCAPTCHA, a service by Google, which allows you to be identified as a human by selecting squares. And they often offer you that you have to select squares with traffic lights or with streets, or you have to identify buses or big cars, something like this. And this is really genius. I really think that of Google because it uses us humans on the internet to label data for them. And we do it for free. We don't even get paid. We just want to go on with our paying process or whatever it is we are doing. And we find it annoying as well. I don't like it because sometimes it's frustrating. And I just do it once. I don't have to do it for 12 hours. So maybe this can give you like an idea how it would be to work with 7 days, 12 hours. And also that AI is not that smart if I have to tell AI which one is the traffic light. So the rather surprising insight so far is that we have a great paradox of automation and its desire to eliminate human labor, but it always generates new tasks for us humans. They may not be nice tasks, but there are tasks for humans so far. Another sense in which AI has a human touch is that it seems sometimes to be prone to bias and prejudices. So maybe you have read headlines like this, like facial recognition is accurate if you're a white guy, or why do all our virtual assistants sound female, or why is AI female? How are ideas about sex and service influence the personalities we give machines? And this goes back to a study done by Joy Buawani from MIT Lab and Timnit Gebru called Color Shades. And they researched color in computer vision, specifically skin color, and how facial facial recognition algorithms made by Microsoft and IBM were more likely to misidentify the gender of Black women and white men. So gender was misidentified in up to 1% of lighter-skinned males in a set of 385 photos. I mean, it's still, I don't want to be part of a 1% if it's a self-driving car and it will mistake me, but so far as a start, it's not too bad. But in this set of pictures, gender was misidentified in 35% in darker-skinned females. And this really is not good because I don't want to be part of a group who is not identified as human or is not identified correctly, especially if it's like 35% the time. And the bias AI is demonstrating here is a result of the training sets used. The set used in this case in the study consisted of images who mostly depicted white people, especially white men. So we had a slight overrepresentation. And because of this imbalance, the data machine learning models got much better in identifying white men and women of color. And in this way, AI kind of reflects human bias about race and gender embedded in the data we use to train AI. So machines don't have prejudices, but unfortunately, humans have, and data sets will reproduce them. In summary, it's safe to say that AI does not stand for an intelligence that will outperform the greatest human minds, not so far at least. And there are no clues that we have an AI rebellion against our human creators like we see in the sci-fi narratives. But sometimes I think that it's much easier to let our AI gaze go on very far away horizons and speculate about very far away futures and what will happen, instead of looking at how things are right now at the present. And it's harder to take a closer look at AI and how things are done now, because it confronts us with a lot of things that go wrong. And right now, AI relies heavily on human prompting assistance. And we need humans to train machine learning models with data sets. Unfortunately, these human stereotypes and biases are not only embedded in the data sets we use to train AI, but also in the conditions under which AI is produced. So right now, this really reflects the inequality in class and race we see already in our analog world and which has transferred to the digital and AI world as well. We have invisibilized work, which is outsourced to developing countries, often under precarious conditions, and worse, on the other side, we see the highly paid jobs in AI, engineering in Silicon Valley, and we also see high dividends for investors. So maybe instead of fearing AI and rebellions and humans gone from the earth, we should rather concentrate on working on the inequality right now at the present and make the work more visible, and maybe also reflect of alternative ways of training and working with machine learning models, which would make better conditions for the people involved in. Thank you.
One, right? Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, for joining me today here and at home. I'm so excited. It feels like a birthday party, wedding. I don't know. It's that sort of feeling that I have today. So I'm happy to share that with you all. My name is Esmeralda, as you heard many times today. I'm the artist in residence of this year, 2022. My work usually explores the human voice, choirs, usually large-scale choirs in very strange places, so nothing to do with technology.
And yeah, today's my last day, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do something else. I'm pretty sure everyone wants to hear what I've done these 6 months, what I'm gonna do, but I thought, that's why I called it reflections. I wanted to reflect before I do. So before being granted this residency, I had never access to this sort of technology. I had no knowledge about artificial intelligence, and I had never used it really. I think that's also the reason why I applied, because I was suddenly allowed to do it. And I was invited to have no knowledge and try new things and ask stupid questions, but still be valid. And also what excited me about applying, not only being able to try it out, was that could I contribute somehow? Could I contribute to research that's already happening just by asking questions, or even the bigger desire to create something in multidisciplinary together? That's why I applied. So I applied with this idea, which Gwendolyn mentioned, but I'll say it again in English for our English audiences. So for my application, I had 3 research questions. Should we create an AI choir? Big question with should. If so, what should it sound like? Could it be based on a model of a human choir, but have a different sound? Could it not be human sounding? Could it maybe be genderless? Could it sound like something completely different? And could durational pieces, for instance, be explored? And question 3 was, who would benefit from such an invention? Is it just because I can do it now and I can try it out? Or is there really anyone that would be excited to try it? Other musicians or conductors? And how would an audience react to such a choir? I was really fortunate to be able to speak and collaborate and listen to all these researchers, all these departments. Speaking to those departments over the past 6 months, I've collected lots of questions that we had or have encountered, that we answered, that we spoke about, could not answer, and then led to more questions. But I also spoke to the public, which was really interesting. I spoke to people outside the university. I spoke to anyone I could meet about artificial intelligence and choir. And for today, I've created a written collection of all these voices. They're not my voices, they're a collection of everyone I spoke to. And as my residency started with 3 questions, it only felt right that it ends with more questions. So Sarah will switch out the light for me. If you're at home, switch out the light, listen to my voice, just enjoy and have listened what 6 months of residency sounds like. Training data 1. What could academia and artistic research possibly have in common? Could we all find time to do something new, learn something that we're not familiar with? Would we enjoy that process, or would it make us feel uncomfortable? What if artists would have the luxury with just time and funds to research and explore new topics? Would we create different work? What do multidisciplinary projects need to work well? Or what do they not need to work well? Do we prefer comfort zones over challenges? Why are we afraid of failure? We want to do new things, but don't create space for failure. Is there no space for failure? How do you create true places for experimentation? Where The outcome is not important, but the possibility to try it out is the success. Training data 2. Why does this AI industry pretend their technology is intelligent? How many humans do you need to run an AI model? Have you read that article about children in refugee camps, prisoners helping to label AI data? Look up Amazon Mechanical Turk 2. Have you seen the documentary about the data cleaners? Why did this get so ugly so quickly? Why does new technology mean exploitation rather than finding ways of protecting the planet? If the AI model can randomize my music, am I the creator or the AI? Why is training data so expensive? Why does training data quickly get so biased? If I use my own music as training data for the AI model, is it not just creating a kind of remix of my music? For the past 6 months, if you could have seen what I have seen, would you create the same? Can I learn like AI? If I look at 2 million pictures, would my work get any better? Why is it okay for visual training data creation to scrap images from the internet without permission from the photographer? Are there no laws for this? What does that mean for our music? How do artists know that their music is not being used in training data? Do streaming services collaborate with universities or AI music companies? Where do we find protection, copyright for music creators? Copyright for music, is that what all this AI music innovations are about right now? How can artificial intelligence and music be fruitful for creators when many don't have access to it or understand how to use it? How do AI music companies engage in collaborating with musicians, artists? They only cited 10 on their website that can't be right. The industry is evolving too fast. Language changes every day. Even the own industry can't keep up, constantly improving, updating. How shall we be able to create anything meaningful? Have you seen an AI model that is based on a human core model where 4 groups have different tasks, but collaborate together to create something and are guided by the human? When you learn an instrument, don't you try to play the music you admire? Isn't that what AI music is currently doing? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, says Oscar Wilde. Does that really count for AI models that create music in the style of Chopin? Training data 3. Why are server farms pictures absolutely not accurate of that reality? Why the blue light and spaceship look? And why don't they show the humans working in it? Who benefits from these images? And how do workers feel who work in server farms having no voice, no face? What do they think about the industry erasing them on videos and pictures? Why is it so hard to get access to get into the server farm? What do people who work at server farms listen to in the evening? Do they experience hearing loss, stress? Did you know that the server farm sounded differently while you were all on holidays? Much quieter. The head technician hears if something is wrong with the rack. With the rack, his ears are perfectly tuned into his server farm. How does he do it? Did your mouth also taste of plastic after the recording session? You hear those microtones too, right? Why can we not build something that is more eco-friendly? Those digital infrastructures are not made for humans. Did you see how much energy they need to run it 24/7? What knowledge should we protect and keep stored for others to be used? Do we really need to save and store everything? I've uploaded it to the cloud. Did you get the link? Training data 4. Why is artificial intelligence portrayed as a robot? And why breasts? What a disappointment, so many humans in AI. Why is this so hidden from the public? Who benefits from the myth of the sci-fi AI that will take over the world? So free apps use my data for training? Do we really need to live like this in 2020? We probably all need data detox, but are individualized responses enough to create enough market influence? How can we morally and ethically disagree with the usage of our data? When you stream a movie on Netflix, do you ever think about where that data farm is? Why is the server farm industry carbon footprint higher than, let's say, the airplane? And again, public doesn't know. How many times have we really cleaned out our data? Have you cleaned your room? How many pictures do you really currently have on your phone? Have we all become digital hoarders? Why do museums and big institutions jump on the AI train immediately out of fear to miss out on good programming? Training data, 5. Does it have any meaning to create current times of war, loss, and pain? Is it all pointless now? Should we not focus on more important things? Would it just happen? How can I create a meaningful work about server farms, big data, and all of this is going on? Lights on. So, I hope you had a nice nap. An artist doesn't have the answers. An artist can only ask more questions, can reflect on topics, and can create work and spaces and invite audience to reflect. Will I create an AI choir? No. Will I be using AI in my final exhibition here? I will continue learning and researching about AI and thinking about AI in choirs. But the expectations of what the technology should be able to do morally and technically, and what it's actually able to do right now in 2022 is miles apart from each other. But I have focused with my research on the view behind it, the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure, the server farms, the sounds, us typing, using that sort of as a concept, as an instrument. So my sound installation will be created at HELLERAU. So I worked site specific, and I needed a site that reminded me of a server farm, somewhere outside of a city where you have to travel to, where security brings you to somewhere. So I'm picking the orchestra pit at HELLERAU that usually no one's allowed to get in. And so I'll be building something there. And I'm very excited about the recordings we did. And they sound very unhuman. It felt horrible being there for longer than 2 hours, but there is something that it feels like this is our sound. We're creating it, we need to own it. So I'm working with voices and those microtones, and it will be a really interesting experience because these sounds are private, they're hidden, you'll never be able to hear them, and I want to give them back to you all so you can actually experience the server farm, but in a more poetic way, and invite you to come there, think with us, and just experience something different, something that is part of the AI industry, but I think I want to invite to think about it rather than just use the technology because I've been given the opportunity. I have to say so many thank yous to so many people. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to create an artwork and to host an artist. So massive thank you to literally every single person, every one of you who spoke to me, showed me around, spoke to me about anything other than AI. Everything was inspiring and really meaningful. Thank you for this wonderful residency, for all your inspiring conversations, all for your help and contributions. I'm deeply grateful for this time and will miss our conversations dearly. Thank you.
As Orit Halpern is unfortunately not here and not present this evening, I'm supporting these three people here on stage and asking also maybe silly questions, helping you to figure out the crucial ones this evening. So I'm happy to introduce again Esmeralda Conde Ruiz in the middle. To my left, Miriam Ackermann and Carsten Nicolai. And all three of them are working on and with sound, electric sound as well, but also sound and spaces. So yeah, let's go in medias res immediately, and maybe we start with Esmeralda's reflections. Please, Miriam, you were part of this process since the very early beginning. Last year in September, we asked you to be part of this process. And also Carsten Nicolai, of course, was even earlier part of this because he was in the jury committee last year in May when we were selecting our third artist in residence. So both of you are very familiar with Esmeralda's ideas and concepts. So maybe you start, Miriam.
On reflections, I think it's super interesting. When we were talking a lot about what are the capacities of AI and what you can also artistically achieve in using it, what you kind of have to put into whatever AI system you have and what you might get out or what you might expect to get out. And I think it's super interesting what you actually picked to work on, because I think that's really something that's rather not reflected in the actual use of the systems, also of the technologies. And I definitely agree that this is like a super important part of it. And I think it really adds a very, very interesting, also kind of new side to how you could see, how you could experience the full the full range of what AI development means, apart from kind of private use or public use or whatever. So I think that's super interesting. And I was also thinking, we were also discussing a lot on what artistic contribution can be in that field. And I think that's a very valid artistic contribution, because usually we are not engaging with background infrastructure necessarily. I mean, there are media studies who really reflect on also on the server farms, but again, on a bit a different level, rather on the data level than on this kind of processing part. So I think that's really a very new facet that you highlight, and I think that's super interesting.
Yeah. As Esmeralda came to our class, actually, it was very interesting, because basically we talked maybe for an hour, but in the end, it was actually a little bit like we've been kind of on a similar point, maybe as today. we had so many questions basically rising. The first question, what I was always asking, because it was as well mentioned tonight here, is what everybody thinks what is AI, right? Because everybody thinks about maybe something completely different. And if you think about a real intelligence, intelligence what is not based on a human, or what basically done by something, might be a computer or something similar to a computer. The question I was always thinking is there anything close to that right now compared to that what we can do right now? And this question I can always say that we still so much smarter in a way in terms of how we handle data. Maybe not the amount of data we can do, but and as well in terms of perception, was you mentioned, like that we have this really great, I mean, our brain is doing constantly this pattern recognition system where we basically filter already from the beginning. So I thought always like, okay, maybe what is the advantage actually? Yeah, that was the other thing, and there is actually a lot of probably commercial aspects in the first place. What is artistically not so interesting. The other part, what I found really interesting, is maybe new tools, software tools for maybe more technology-based engines, but already existing kind of artificial intelligence, like artificial voice shaping, or that you're creating basically different kind of not yet heard sounds. Let's say what are maybe sound like a voice, but they are not a voice, or something that might be. I think it's already possible, but can be helpful. But I always thought, okay, I'm actually not so interested as an artist, somebody doing that for me. Actually, I want to do that. It's and the other thing is as well, is the audience interested in having a performance, for instance, from an artificial choir? Because when you perform on stage, it's very funny, because I perform since more than 20 years on stage, mainly with digital computers. There's not much interaction between me and the computer, but can show the process, what is actually happening. So, but then I thought, actually, I'm not really necessary on stage. Theoretically, yeah, theoretically, I could stand in the audience and perform, or go behind the stage. But after a while, I realized actually it's really important to be there. It's just a presence, and this is something what probably AI probably could not replace. This kind of energy when a performer, a personality appears. because AI would have not a personality, or it invents a personality, but then we still know it's invented personality, but has not a value for us for some reason. So, I mean, there's many levels how you question AI, and I not want to be too negative, because I think we've all been very negative tonight. Maybe you not. Yeah, but I think that there are definitely helpful ways to use AI, but I think as well, of course, we have to be very careful what ghosts you are waking up, and we have to discuss this as well, of course. And Esmeralda, with your presentation, I mean, I found it incredible smart, basically not to answer things, to ask more questions. Actually, I think it's definitely a very good way to how to handle that topic. Thank you for that.
I just want to hear them talk, to be honest. They're both so amazing, honestly. So I thank you both. I don't know what to say. It's I agree. When I heard you speak about your performances and that you thought about you could be anywhere else, I agree that that was the hardest challenge for me, envisioning an artificial intelligence choir. Because even if there's just one person on stage, humans want to connect. They want to adore you, or they want to whatever. They want to connect. They want a human connection. Something's happening, and that usually happens with music. And that was a hard thing for me to get through, the idea of, okay, who would we connect to if it's a choir? And because the conductor turns around usually, so you don't see the audience. So you would see just the back, or would it need a conductor? You know, all of these questions. So, but again, I like the theoretical thinking about it, especially having Miriam on board and being able to just brainstorm all angles, and it just raises more questions, but it also makes you value things. And to resonate on what you said, I also learned a lot of positive things. I also learned a lot of positive, beautiful things that AI is able to do, and I'm still fascinated about it. But it was a bit like the Matrix. I took the wrong pill, and now I know too much. And it's like, I can never go back. And it's like, what do you do with this knowledge? I'm still curious about technology. And I think both of you, you've worked for so long with music and technology. There is this urge in us musicians, artists, to explore, and technology can give us a lot to explore. But I was really bamboozled when I read about OpenAI, that jukebox model that they created. So they fed it thousands and thousands of songs or whatever from, let's say, Elvis Presley, and then now it can create a new Elvis Presley song with a different model that creates new Elvis Presley lyrics. And then if you scroll down, you can see that they gave it to 10 musicians. And all of them were like, yeah, we don't want that. We're just like, this has no use for us. So I think that's why I come back to this residency where, you know, I had the opportunity to work with other disciplines, people who are actually coding, who are doing new applications, who are creating things from scratch, like Matthew McGinnity, Christian, the immersive experience lab. They invited me to spend like 2 weeks, day and night with their students coding, and it opened up eyes. It opened up so much that I understand where the difficulty sits. And hearing them speak and wanting to try to find new ways, that was so inspiring. So I just hope that there's more people like them and universities like you and other places, industry, companies that start thinking that way. Because I think there's always artists who want to use technology, but if if the creator or whoever builds it, codes it, does not have the artist in mind, then we cannot really find a way. We didn't start using technology because they brought it out. We just wanted to explore and then created something through it with time. But yeah, I think that conversation is really important. And my experience here was so fruitful. I'm super interested now in algorithmic music and live coding and all of that. So that's super interesting. I never ever thought about it. So, you know, and I want to learn more about AI, about virtual reality and all these things. So it's still super inspiring, but I think the dialogue needs to be there and the questions need to be there.
You were all now talking about absence or presence of human beings or non-human beings. We were watching your presentation with the interior of the server farms here in Technical University Dresden, but also images you found in the internet. And it's, I think, about being absent or being present, leaving traces of human beings as well. What you were talking, is there somebody present on stage interacting? What is this, or what could this kind of interaction be in the Zukunftsmusik, for example? And what about the importance of spatial dimensions? You were also all mentioning space and sound. What's the link?
It's a long, it's a big topic.
Yeah, but if
okay, well, we have to start. Okay, I alternate your question a little bit. Okay, future of music or sound. So I think the most exciting thing about the future is that we cannot predict the future. So that's actually, so we can maybe a little bit reflect on maybe what happened in the last 100 years. So in these terms, in terms of sound and sound performances, we're winning a huge field. We can basically, we have electronic music now, we have computer generated music, we can basically have algorithmic music. So we all already, we have a lot of microtonality, so we can control that, we can measure that, we can analyze that. So this is all happened in the last 100 years. And so it means we have much more knowledge about that, what probably we used millions of years already as humans. Yeah. So, and in this connection, when I saw the picture of the server farms and the ecological impact, I was always thinking about, okay, how to store, more or less is about storing memory, or and how to deal basically with computing power in the future. But if you, I mean, sound is a great example, and maybe the choir who was here is a perfect example, because in the collective memory of humans, we always transferred our knowledge from generation to generation. Maybe child learned a song, and then the next generation. So the songs who've been sung here tonight, we know, even if we maybe not learned that one, but two of them at least I know. So so there is a storage of memory that doesn't use any energy. And actually, and by side of that, it's changing from generation to generation. It's alternating, or it's maybe something gets lost, some things get added. So it's kind of as well growing. And I think this is something for me what has a big future. I'm not so sure if everything what is based on spending energy will have that much future in the end, because we will all have basically, if you look at like old libraries or whatever, the book is a great example. You don't need in order to store the knowledge of a book for a long time. You just can put it in the shelf, and after 30, 50 years, you can put it out. But a server farm or anything in the cloud, you need constantly every day to give something inside. So I don't think really this is the future. And it's probably a step towards something, and we are recognizing that maybe this energy problem is not the right solution, maybe. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm losing a little bit the point. But if you had another question.
Yeah, about the spatial dimension in your work, for example.
Spatial dimension.
Sound and space for your environments, your installations.
Yes.
How is it linked? Was also for Esmeralda's work, it will play a central role for your installation in HELLERAU, right?
Okay, the different terms now when you talk about spatial sound can only exist in space. So you need always space. You need matter in space, of course. That sound can be distributed, but what you probably mean is like the space, like where you perform or where sound is happening. And I mean, we facing right now two very difficult, or let's say it's kind of dividing into two kind of directions. Most of the people consume sound in a much more worse quality like 40 years ago. So actually it's completely downgrading in the moment. But on the other hand, in performance spaces, like in concert halls, is actually going much better. Yeah, so as a musician, as a performer, or as an artist, we of course looking more towards the better places, of course. Yeah. So in terms of sound control and environmental control, there's a lot of possibilities right now. I think it's still on the big. I think it's still in the beginning of that we understand how sound can be distributed in space. I think it's actually a great topic to think as artists about that for the future as well, about light, sound, environment, temperature, haptics, smell, whatever. I mean, what philosophically we call atmosphere or sphere. Yeah. So I think this is something what definitely is starting. I think I see this as a start point now, is that people are start exploring, more the younger generation, to see this more holistic as one thing, not just pure listening to music. And this will definitely trigger a lot of hopefully great artworks, I think. And I mean, what you're trying to do with HELLERAU, I'm very excited to not too much pressure.
I might ask for some help. Well, I think I wouldn't go too deep into the problems of archiving all the digital parts, because I mean there is a lot of research and it's a very somehow very urgent research, because we are in risk of losing a lot of data, no matter how big the server farms are. So when we think of the very early days of digital data, then we are really, especially for artworks, for music, for also early media works, we are really in risk of losing a lot. We have no proper solution yet. We have a lot of discussion on how we can technically solve it. But what I think is much more interesting is what you said about that's inspiring you. And I think that's something that we see in art throughout the ages, and especially in the second half of the 20th century, that this kind of, I would say, mutual relationship between what we develop in technology, what we kind of learn on how
sound, how perception works, what we can use for tools to enhance our perceptions or to also kind of play around with sound in different ways that we were able to do, than we were able to do it before technology. That's really like beneficial for both sides, because on the one hand, artists, I think the big advantage of being artists is that you're not restricted in your thoughts and dreams and to technical restrictions. I mean, you can just dream and say, I'm imagining, I want to have this, I want to have that, or this is inspiring me on whatever, and I can just try to go for it. And there is no, I mean, maybe I face some technical restrictions, but it's rather on kind of the image that you can create, on your imagination that you can develop. And at the same time, the kind of the collaboration between researchers on that kind of technological field and are getting inspired by the artists, because they said, okay, maybe we can't offer that, but we can work on that. And it's so also for them, it's really, really inspiring. And I think sometimes as a researcher, we are kind of restricted to our own systems, because we know how far we can go. We know already all the obstacles that we can face. So we might not be as free in kind of dreaming on utopic whatever ideas than you can be as an artist. And also some questions that we can ask, but I'm pretty sure that from my field domain, I can't answer it. So I need other people to do it. And I think this is a very fruitful relationship. And we saw it like in many, many works and also a lot of technologies that have been developed in a very, very close relationship. And I think this kind of awareness now that in digital technology and also in virtual reality domains, because we can't really stop going in that direction. After having COVID times for 2.5 years, almost 3 years, where there was also a need of imagining other spaces where we can kind of present also audio works, because I think audio works have been pretty much restricted to physical spaces. I mean, due to acoustics, basically. But thinking of how we can really think of recreating the same perception. We don't know if that works the same way, because if you have headphones or if you have loudspeakers, that changes a lot. And for headphones, we don't know if our perception is really the same, because we can't really control it. We can control it in a space. I mean, if I have a good staging, I can control pretty lot, at least, not everything, but a lot. And I think this is something that will have also branches that go rather commercial, but that has a big branch that's really on that kind of utopic artistic freedom. Because it's also, if it's not working in the way that we expected, it can nevertheless create a lot of new questions, a lot of insights into maybe also other domains. And I think that this is something that also your thoughts and your questions really showed in a very, very good way, because as you're not limited to any research domain, you can just continue starting questions, no matter where the answers might be based. And I think that that's really something that we can't value high enough for exactly that reason. And for what, let's say, the artistic presentation, I think that also the new technologies ask for new artistic approaches, because we can't just transfer what we do to another domain and saying, okay, now I'm using 24 super good loudspeakers and my brand new programmed interface, and now we have a super good performance. This is and I think that working as an artist with digital technologies and also with interactions and interactive technologies really also needs to rethink the position of the artists and the relationship to the audience. And again, this is also very good for the artists, I think, because that's challenging also the artists. So I think it's a very win-win mutual relationship. And if then some branches kind of are also useful for other fields, then even better.
Thank you. Maybe, yeah, there are some questions coming up from the audience.
I found your question about space really interesting, because there are so many dimensions of space that you can think about. And one thing that I think wasn't mentioned, but what I think is important, is space as a social space. And as far as I see, a lot of your work is related to social topics, to the people, and that the works are developed in this space with people. And it might be a virtual space, but it is sort of a social space. And I find it very interesting that you came back here regarding the people behind all this technology in all the different places around the world, like here in data centers, in remote data centers, people who produce the products that we use together with AI and so on. And I was a little surprised initially that you, as a choir person, working so much with people, and I think that the social aspect of your work might sometimes be the first and foremost thing, and music comes from that. That you were interested now in researching AI, which is such a bodiless thing when you look at it, and has.
I shock you, sorry.
Yeah, sort of, which seems a little unhuman, but I'm still wondering how did that happen? That you said, well, AI is the thing that I want to really understand, maybe, or be inspired by, or use, or whatever. Is there anything that brought you to this point to now be here, and that this is half year, at the end of this half year?
Thank you for your question. Yeah, I need to think about it. I'm a very social person, and I love the social side of choirs and the idea of a community in a room, but that's not where the inspiration often lies. That's often secondary in a way. For me, it's often I start with the site, the place where we're going to create it. So if we would do something here, and that's the first thing I think about when I come, and I'm like, okay, checking. I would definitely not use the stage, la la la. So yeah, it's that's how I start thinking. It's always the space first. I don't know why. It's just that, and then it's what does that space mean? You know, a library. You know, who has access to that, and that's where the humans come in. And then I think about the humans. So I'm very conceptual, sorry. And then at some point, I need the humans to do something for me. Otherwise, the work doesn't work. And I need to convince them that to be part of it. And I need to be charming, but intelligent. So they do it. So it's like a game, but it's not easy. And humans have a lot of questions. They don't say just yes, because I ask them. And they need to be looked after a lot to feel part of an artwork, which is the hardest bit. So you create the piece together in the end. I can have great ideas, but if they don't participate, there is no work. And that's what excites me. And the thing with artificial intelligence was that I didn't have access. Well, I thought, you know, I didn't know that, you know, there's other ways, and that I actually was already using artificial intelligence, or artificial intelligence was using me, you know, anyway. So it was such an abstract thing. And I do use residencies to think about something new strategically. So every 4 or 5 years, sit down, I'm like, okay, challenge myself. Can I do something that I've never done before? How will I react? And I thought, before the pandemic, I started reading more about artificial intelligence and mainly following sort of these sci-fi ideas where people were scared and they're taking away our jobs. That really echoed because, you know, I've been a foreigner all my life. So it's like, you know, that I heard before. So that really resonated with me and I kept reading about it. And then I just liked the challenge. What if I take one material that I always work with, if I take it away, what happens? That's what I wanted to do. It wasn't so much taking choirs away from choirs and humans. It was more, for me, taking away my material. How would I react? And then through Miriam and others, I learned there's lots of humans in it. I'm like, damn. So what do I do now? So yeah, my plan didn't really work, but I still learned other things and all the humans were too many to feature. So I had to pick which one would be the most exciting in my artistic practice. And the server farm was a physical experience I've never experienced in my life before. It was just a sonic bizarreness of heat, water, wind. My hair would move around. So it was very, very different to how I ever experienced anything sonically. And I've been to very strange concerts and performances and things. So, you know, but the space itself, the physicality of the space and the spatial situation of these microtones was really interesting. And having Carsten Tiede there, who was really, yeah, what's the word? Proud that someone asked him about exactly these tones. And he knew exactly what I was looking for. He said, you should listen to this one, listen to this one. So, you know, having a human helping me to understand a new sonic concept. So that's how I got there. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, my name is Klaus Dessler. I find that your residence was in great part fight for humanity in the arts. And therefore I have some short things to say. I'm a very old AI researcher since 1968. And I have lived everything, nearly everything of that. It was long, long years in the United States. Now I have a company on artificial intelligence, better mathematical intelligence. And I must say, all that what we have today, this hype, this artificial intelligence is not right. Artificial intelligence is not these machines. The name is used to make more, let's say, more wine with these machines. If we look what is meant by artificial intelligence, then we see that it is so-called machine learning. And machine learning is in reality a large mathematical function where you bring a lot of parameters and there comes an output. But there, if you look inside, there is nowhere intelligence. What is intelligence? Question number one. That means artificial intelligence, if we learn it today or hear it today, is no intelligence. On the second side, music, art, all of that is part of cognition. And this part of cognition with humans is not the mathematical part of intelligence. That means the mathematical part of intelligence is a danger for us. Why? We learn a lot of successes and how intelligent these machines are, and we believe in it and whatsoever. But in reality, as you said before, there is a new Elvis Presley. No, there is no possibility that a mathematical function like machine learning will learn any songs of Elvis Presley, his life and whatsoever, and then it makes a new Elvis Presley. No, it makes an old Elvis Presley. And as to the choirs, if you look at many of the choirs and we learn them by machine, by so-called artificial intelligence, which is no intelligence, then there were no new choir music exist. It is then something of the old choir music. And therefore the great danger I see, and I hope that you see it afterwards also, is that the future of culture, the future of human being, and also is ended by the relational, correlational machine learning, and that the creativity comes from another room. That is your room. You saw here, you said about the room of all the people around you, the room of this library and whatsoever. And this room is not learnable. This room is creative. That means creativity cannot come from a mathematical function. It can only come from other features people have in mind. That is also, I name it cognition and so on. That's a philosophical problem, but I find it very wonderful that you, as you saw the different training methods and training models, that you always took these unintelligent training models, which should generated or generalized by unintelligent machines, and that we have any other room. And I can support you to continue in this direction, and you also. Thank you. I'm a member of the ISO standardization group of artificial intelligence and also of the DIN standardization group.
Thank you. Some replies from
I would
Lucy?
love to speak to you in private.
Okay, but we continue with more questions.
Thank you, first of all. I stumbled in here by chance, and just to give you a glimpse of how glad I am, I just graduated in music technology and right now I'm studying IT at the TU Dresden, so there's practically no better place in the world to have spent the last 2 hours than this symposium. Thank you so much for all your presentations and giving insight. Now to my question. Over the last decades, we could see a switch in taste regarding music. As technology advanced, today music is much more bass-driven than maybe a decade ago. And as a music producer, I know that there is already software out there guiding producers to balance out frequencies while mixing and mastering, for example. And do you think that there will be a point in the future at which this is becoming a chicken-egg situation where taste is influenced by AI, which is trained by the people with the taste at the moment? Or is this always going to be a uphill situation, people training AI, which is then going to influence the people? So which of these scenarios do you think is more likely to happen in the future? Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, I answered my opinion, but I would love to hear yours too. Taste trained by AI. I think we're already there, aren't we? Sort of, if you have a Spotify account, is it really your taste, what you're listening? Or is it, you know, helped sort of, I think a good way of training your taste, I would say, is just stay curious and challenge yourself, listen to other things. Don't just do the one thing. And I guess that's currently the difficulty in this time where everything gets through algorithms and it gets recommended similar again. So it depends where you discover new music, where you encounter music, how you find music and what inspires you. But what are your thoughts? No thoughts, Miriam?
I think that in music, luckily, we are not yet there. I mean, there are several attempts to design AIs to create music, and there are contests for it. And the music that results is either kind of very regular or very weird because it has changes that we wouldn't expect at all. And what we see there is that usually there are a lot of humans, again, who really take the decisions on the aesthetic directions. And without those aesthetic kind of guidelines, the music that appears technically wouldn't really match to what people like, or those composers that used whatever techniques would really wanted to create. So we see that still we need human decisions in order to create something that is not only kind of similar to the training data, so because like an alteration of the training data, but we always expect something that's exaggerating the rules in the appropriate deviation, let's say. So this artistic interpretation or something that's new, that's unexpected, but to a certain range. And I think luckily artificial intelligence systems are not yet there to really detect this in a way that we really would appreciate it. If it's only on regular based music like Mozart or something that's really rule based, like 100% rule based, then the systems work quite well. But if you want to really have this creative part, or is also kind of conceptual ideas, other ideas, new concepts, then those machines are out. And we'll see how long that lasts, but yet music is quite a good field for that.
Yeah, completely agree. Maybe one little example, for instance, when the other day I was trying some mixing software where they had this kind of function that it analyzes the tracks and sets you already the levels. And then I tried that for a second and said, okay, actually, no. Actually, I want to do it because there's something what of course you save time, and probably for somebody who has to master or to mix like 15 tracks a day, and it's not really important how they sound, whatever. So they're approximately right, let's say. But if you do this by yourself and it takes a lot of time for whatever reason, don't ask me why. I think I did it. So when I use a plugin or what helps me to create something, I actually always redo it again and kick the plugin out, just that I know I did it. I not want to, actually I not want that somebody is helping me here, really. Even like, let's say, because when I started, I involved a lot of filters, error sounds, whatever. So I recreated the errors multiple times until I was happy that how the error appeared. So I was not 100% accepting even this kind of inside that kind of system. And maybe because I didn't learn classic in the classic way how to do computer music, whatever. So I did, and I never read the manuals. So I just start things and do them wrongly in the beginning, maybe, let's say. But then I find out maybe, oh, there's a much faster way, but you never found out that this way exists. But I was very happy that I took the more difficult way, because on the way you already have more possibilities to create things. Otherwise you sound like all the others when you just go that way. So musically, technology-wise, maybe there can a lot of like the machines can help you a lot or whatever. But what I say to my student is, for instance, in terms of music, the first thing what you should do, delete all the presets, kick all the samples out. Take nothing but they deliver you. You don't need a sample library, just throw them away. Otherwise, you sound like everybody. So I think this is something, it's really important that you don't use this convenience, what they offer you.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you for this very interesting, enjoyable, and also inspiring evening. I have a question on language. So we learned that there are sets of terms when you describe music. We all know that we love to hear music. We know what we like, we know what we don't like, but we have difficulties in describing. So we had the sets for producers and for consumers. We talk about roughness, pitch, volume, and stuff like this. And Esmeralda, the question goes especially to you. Did you experience a change in your language in talking about music during your residency? That would be something I'm very much interested in. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I did. I did. I tried to learn what the language was, how people would communicate about the same thing. So Erkan Altınsoy and Sebastian, we do very similar things, site-specific, but we have different languages, how to speak about it. But we had really interesting conversations to try to find a language. And then when working with Matthew McGinnity and Christian in the VR coding workshop, I tried to follow their language, which was frequency rather than key or notes. It was always frequency. And I tried to learn how they are coding or what is important, how they code. So I made the students then compose a choir song, which they were performing, but in the language of code. I was like, okay, so what's the next decision? And what happens after this? And what, so they immediately did it. So if I would have said, let's sit down and write a choral song, they would have never done it. But so I tried, but I must thank Matthew as well there, because he's excellent in multidisciplinary projects, because he always tries to imitate the language of the other. So we found each other very well because we're both doing that. So we found very quickly a language that we both understood, and that I would hope to develop further and to I cannot speak to choirs about frequency, but that would be really interesting to see what happens. Thank you. That's a really inspiring question. I should think about that. Yes.
So are there any more questions from the audience, or maybe also from you three to the audience? If not, I'm happy to read a question from Oid, which is she's unfortunately not with us, as I told you, because she's ill, but she's saying hi to everybody and also congratulating. Amazing presentation. Could you discuss the coffee machines in your presentation and how you think about standardization and difference in your music, especially when dealing with training sets, etc.? Not sure if this is clear.
The coffee machines, yeah. So most of the other pictures that I've took during the 6 month here, I tried to create data, training data. I didn't know who I was training, but then at some points I realized, oh, it's all of you I'm going to train. But no parameters, no reason. The coffee machines, well, all of these questions, I put them in groups. And I gave them topics, which I didn't say what they were about, but the coffee machines were about all the conversations we had, but similar to your question right now, university versus art practice. And for some reason, it was the first question I would get asked when I would visit someone, would you like a coffee? Or there would be a big show off about, I've got the best coffee machine on the campus, or whatever, or my coffee machine's broken, sorry, we only have tea. So for some reason, I thought that could be a good way of visualizing academia. I had to create it synthetically. So I didn't, in the moment, I didn't realize that that was an important question. I should have taken pictures of all the coffee machines, but yeah, that's why I had to create it that way. And the other question, Orit, what did she, sorry.
I think the main question was actually about the coffee machines. And I think you explained it really well. And of course, there are visual metaphors coming up when you are talking about coffee machines and our infrastructure, our structure at the university, heating up ideas, let them run through filters, provide them to who else, students, whatever, colleagues, staff, and so on. It's a very nice visual, key image, I think. And we started with a lot of questions today, and we probably end with a lot of questions as well. But of course, we have to end with music, and that's why the wonderful, fabulous Gnadenchor will perform for us again. And afterwards, we would like to invite you to take one of these codes, because we would be happy if you be part of a group photo in the end with the members of the Gnadenchor here in front of the stage. And then there will be Prosecco, and we are saying farewell to Esmeralda, but not now. Just enjoy the music, take on your coats, and have a nice evening with us. Thank you so much for coming.
In einem da geht ein Mühlenrad, mein Liebchen ist verschwunden, das dort gewohnet hat. Mein Liebchen ist verschwunden, das dort gewohnet hat. Sie hat mir treu versprochen, gab mir ein Ring dabei. Sie hat die Treu gebrochen, das Ringlein sprang entzwei. Sie hat die Treu gebrochen, das Ringlein sprang entzwei. Ich möchte als Spiel wissen, weit in die Welt hinaus und singen meine Weisen und gehen von Haus zu Haus und singen meine Weisen und gehen von Haus zu Haus. Ich möchte als Reiter fliegen, wohl in die blutge Schlacht und stille Feuer liegen im Feld bei dunkler Nacht. Und stille Feuer liegen im Feld bei dunkler Nacht. Hör ich das Mühe hat und keine Sonne mehr scheint, schläft alles, was sich ergeben hat und was zuvor geweint. Auch du bist in den Schlaf wach und liegst in stiller Ruhe. Ich aber ging die ganze Nacht und tu kein Auge zu.